afraid to step up to a challenge. Because a few years ago, I walked into a council session when we were talking about how we could make sure that we had excellent fire and police service, and one of the main reasons to do that was to ensure that there was adequate pay. The city had not had a pay plan or updated pay in over 10 years, and a lot of people said, you can't do that, you'll have to raise taxes. Well, did this council not only find a way to put in place a pay plan, they did it actually reducing taxes. What does that take? It takes looking hard at innovative ways to come up with solutions when people say no, or you can't, or you shouldn't, because it was the right thing to do. And so there was a pay plan that we completed this year. We did it out of over 3 years, and that's a way for us to preserve the security. Y'all come on in and sit down, please. Thank you. Then there was discussion about economic development and what does it take to put in place an economic development plan. The city of Stephenville didn't have one. The legislation was put in place over 25 years ago, and a lot of people said, no, you can't do that. There's restrictions. Nobody will ever vote for that. Well, what it took was digging into the details about what it really took to implement the program, and the initiative passed with 77% of the voters' approval in the community. It took a lot of work, a lot of months, a lot of study, a lot of investigation, and a lot of try to get to that result. And I think this community is going to benefit immensely from that, as we've already seen a tremendous interest in businesses and construction. Now, that stuff doesn't happen overnight. I mean, for a building to go from concept and business plan to out of the ground, you are moving fast if you do that in 24 months. You know, so it's going to take some time for some of that to be put in place, but the wheels are in motion, and we've got our first Stephenville Executive Development Authority meeting on Thursday night, and so that is the result of a lot of hard work and due diligence. Streets are an issue in Stephenville. 2 years ago, there was no dollars in the budget for streets. Last year we put $250,000 in there. This year we put $100,000 to design $1 million worth of street repair. We also have put in place the first ever pavement plan for this community, which is a commitment by this council to making sure that we take care of infrastructure. Again, that's not a program that you go from 0 to 60 overnight, because there's a lot of details that go into putting that plan together, but we've got to start. And I'm very proud of the council for their work to help put that in place. Another thing that is important is a thoroughfare plan that we have in place in the motion right now to help us as a community understand where do our streets need to be as this city grows, because we look around and we see growth is upon us, and if we don't get in front of that because of the extreme costs and conflicts associated with where roads go, then so we're updating that plan the first time in 12 years. So why am I mentioning these things? Well, 4 of those things that I just mentioned, and the council, you've heard me say this before, but if you go and look at our comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan is a document that's supposed to guide the city's long-term vision and where we're going. That plan has 5 priorities. The top 5 priorities in it are to use the city funds on streets, to revitalize the character of neighborhoods, to enforce codes, to eliminate health and safety risks. We've had a lot of work done there. To use the thoroughfare plan to determine street development, and to provide a multi-use community complex to include libraries, senior citizens, and event center. The idea of us talking about a multi-purpose facility is not a new idea. I mean, those of you that have lived in this community for a long time understand that. The priorities in this document are not supposed to change from year to year. They're supposed to guide us from year to year. And this is a 2030 plan, so what we as a council have been doing is looking back at this to say, what are the priorities and what are we doing to make them happen? And I hope, just as a reminder to ourselves, I just wanted to go through this tonight to remind us of the great work that we, the council, have been doing to try to stay focused on what the top priorities in our community have been. And we've been doing a great job with that. These are big items, and many of them are items that people said, well, you just don't bother or don't mess with that, but we have. So the fifth item on there, multi-use community complex. There's drawings that go back to the early 80s. There was a lot of effort done by the city studying Mustang, Oklahoma, looking at their multi-purpose facility, which was really the first of its kind up in Mustang, that for the first time looked for communities to try to leverage the common use of air conditioning, for example, by putting a library, senior citizens, and rec center in one facility. If you and they've got an excellent facility. It was one that was looked at as a model for this community because of similar size and demographics and people trying to understand, how can that happen? That's been on the shelf for over a decade now, or close to it. So how do we get to here to tonight? Let me run through that real quick because I think it's important to put this in context because we are I think as a council working to move at an informed pace. I'll just use that word again. This past year, Leadership Stephenville, which is a class that has come together of community participants to look at the community, to learn more about it, to get involved. This year's class included the following participants: David Asbell, who's the director out at Foster Home; Joe Brown, County Commissioner; Elvie Coffey, President of Texas Bank; Willie DeYoung; Dominic DeTavio; Brent Graves; Jason Halsey; Jamie Hayden; Edward Hines; Ilda Martinez; Chris Moore; Carrie Pineda; Julia Stokes; Gary Salt; Matt Underwood, and myself. It was a unique class in that the alumni of Leadership Stephenville said, we want to bring a group together that are already in leadership roles in the community as a way to get them together. I mean, typically you bring people that are up and coming and you want to try to groom future leaders. Well, this was a class that was brought together of existing leaders. And so what happens with Leadership Stephenville? The group gets together once a month and goes and looks at various sectors of the community. One month, the sector of the community that we looked at was government. We get on a bus and we drive around town. And on that bus tour that day, we'd had a discussion. Pat and I had a discussion. Well, what facilities did we look at in the city? And at one point, Pat had said, "Well, we don't have time to go to the senior citizens." He and I were back and forth. No, let's go to the senior citizens. So we went into the senior citizens that day, and we got back on the bus, and we were just all quiet. And we were just, I can't say the word any other way than just to say, we can do better than that. And that was the feeling in the bus. And so we came back as a group and we said, what can we do to make the senior citizens better? That can be our class project. Well, that discussion led to us to the city to tell us all about Mustang, Oklahoma, and the idea of doing Mustang, Oklahoma. And the thought was, okay, well, let's go do that. And then the city said, well, you got $15 million in your pocket? And we said, whoa, that's not going to happen. So what can we do to maybe get there? I mean, the idea with this group, to say as a group, what can we do? So the idea that again, Mustang, Oklahoma was one of the early versions of putting these three together. Since then, communities have added a convention space or a money-generating space to that as a way to offset the cost. And so, to put a long story short, our discussions led us to the idea of trying to put some multi-purpose or convention space in Stephenville as a way to generate money that in few years might be 5, 7, or 10 years, to then build a new library, senior citizens, and rec center as a part of that. There was a presentation that was made by Leadership Stephenville, actually a resolution that was passed by this council to participate with Leadership Stephenville to try to come up with approaches, again, innovative ideas about how to do that. Out of that came in May a contract that Jeremy's going to talk about tonight, for us to take, and this is really important to understand, a business-based approach to, can the city afford to do this or not? Because the idea is to not put a burden on the taxpayers to do something that's not going to generate and pay for itself, best case. Today, we offset the cost for the three areas I'm talking about from 70 to 80%. So anything we can do to reduce that, I mean, a goal being 50% or less, is a lot better than other communities. So the idea was, is there a way for us to package together a money-generating scenario to do that? All right, then along came the idea of well, we're in Stephenville, we're in an area where the rodeo industry is growing. Is there an opportunity to do something like they have in a smaller scale in Wichita Falls with the multi-purpose event center up there, where there's an arena and a convention center? And I'll remind the council that from day one, I have said repeatedly the words public-private joint venture. When I've said that, what I've meant is the city has no interest in owning or operating a rodeo arena. And we're going to talk about that some more tonight, but that's where I'm at. I mean, but the idea of being able to leverage a capacity that the study that Jeremy has going on is hopefully going to tell us whether or not there is a need or not, because, and Jeremy's going to go into the details of that. Part of what we're doing is trying to do a business case analysis of, is there excess capacity? I mean, it's a classic thing that any business owner would do to say, do I expand my business or do I add a new business? Is there excess capacity in the community that is not being tapped that would warrant me to gain some of that profit? Okay? So that's the question that we've asked. It's not to try to take anything away from anything that's going on. And this gets back to the basic definition of what economic development is. Economic development is not just adding one more thing and chasing the same dollar. Economic development is finding another 50 cents and having $1.50 in the economy, not just $1. And so what we're, I think, attempting to do in some of these discussions is, as a council, understand how does the community benefit from an economic development perspective, and how does convention space and arena and a cost analysis fit into that. None of this is a done deal. There is no decision that's been made. None. And I'll take you back, though, I think, to, and blame me for it if you want to, the requirement for us as a council to not run on emotion. I'm not going to allow us as a council to do that. I'm going to ask that we have a business cost analysis basis for decisions that we make. And that's what got us to the pay plan. It's what got us to the EDC, and it's what has brought us here tonight. Because what we as a council have asked Pat, and Jeremy's going to give us a presentation, is where are you in your analysis of the idea? And we're not going to do anything until we understand those facts. And so, for those of you that came here tonight thinking that we were going to buy something, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is serving this community and doing, I think, what's expected of us, and being wise with your dollars and not spending them on emotion. And I know that's, I'll just leave it at that. So the other thing that I want to mention before I turn it over to Jeremy is we have an airport that is getting 800 feet added to it. It's going from 4,200 to 5,000 feet. That is a done deal. The state of Texas has appropriated those dollars in its draft plan. That's going to start happening in 2016, phase 1, 2017, phase 2. That's going to be a huge boost to our airport, and it's something that we didn't anticipate, maybe even 5 years ago. So the final thing that I'll mention is that we're moving along on pace with this study, going to have it done, and then suddenly we get an unsolicited request from Rocky Point, the church, to us, the city, to say, hey, we're considering selling this property. Are you interested? And we are asking ourselves that question tonight, and have been, are we? Because we don't know if we are or not. And so, part of this, when you go back to the overall strategy of trying to come up with a convention center arena, that was built from scratch idea that would be, a lot of money. And then suddenly here is introduced an idea that, okay, it's already got components that are built, and you don't have to build from scratch. Well, everybody that's familiar with that type of scenario, that's going to lower your total cost overall. And so it's something that we have thought worthy of considering. And so with that as a backdrop for tonight's discussion, I want to turn it over to you, Pat, and I guess if you just want to go straight to Jeremy for the update to the council, we can do that. So, and Jeremy's coming off of knee surgery.
Yeah,
so he's a trooper for being
keep saying
here.
It's rough up at City Hall, but this kind of takes us to a new level, I guess. We start out arm wrestling, and we end up on the ground wrestling and breaking the leg or whatever. So I had notes, but the mayor pretty much went through a lot of my notes, so he kind of stole my thunder. So it's kind of hard for me to tell the mayor to stop talking and take my thunder away. I'll kind of touch on some of these things, and then I'll kind of go over the study a little bit.
Well, Jeremy, it won't hurt us at all to hear from your perspective.
Okay.
I mean, because you're managing the program and you're the day on the ground guy. So,
Yeah, well, I'll just start with when I came here for an interview, one of the things that probably really landed me a job was my experience with convention centers, conference centers, and that was a big part of my interview. Of course, I had experience with some other things. My first day, Mr. Bridges drove me around, and one of our first stops was the senior center. And I mean, we both walked out there and just looked at each other and said, we gotta do something about that. He took me over to the park where the potential multi-purpose facility said, oh yeah, we're supposed to, there was some studies done. So I kept that in the back of my mind, and got here to Stephenville, no conference center, no meeting spaces. Mind you, we did have some private ventures going, but got in the office and found that I didn't hear about the 80 study, but going back to 1999, there's been 3 different proposals brought to council about this multi-purpose facility. For the first 2 months, I didn't do much with it besides saying, man, we got to do something with our library, we got to do something with our senior center, really getting to know staff. They told me the same thing. Come February, leadership Stephenville, basically had this idea to stimulate these talks again. So for me, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. It all fit with what I thought too. So we took the core group of leadership group after we talked about it quite a few times. So March and April, we spent basically surveying the town on what the energy level was for this project. So we took, I can give you names, Brent, LV, there was the core group of 5 or 6 people. We went to the Senior Center Advisory Board, we went to the Library Advisory Board, we went to Parks and Rec Advisory Board. We had several meetings about not only what this thing would look like, how we would incorporate people, and most of all, how do we limit the money that the city has to fork out for this thing. That was a big push, not just from the city standpoint, but of course them as private citizens too. We got a lot of positive feedback, a lot of sincere energy for the project. So in May, came to you, we basically proposed for a feasibility study for this. What would this thing look like? Can we afford it? What would the rates look like? Are those rates that the people would pay for the conference center? Will that help fund it? What's the recovery? All those questions will be answered in this feasibility study. Luckily, talking with this guy, and I brought this guy to town. He has interviewed many people throughout the community, business leaders, talking about what are the needs for the businesses. And I've sent through many hours, probably 40 or 50 people. After he gets done interviewing these people, he tells me about the possibility of a private development taking this thing on, not necessarily the city. So a private developer would basically develop this and then charge rent to And this is where we incorporate the rodeo association, incorporate the medical facilities as a rehab facilities too. So these tenants, being AAA tenants, would actually be incorporated into the lease space. So instead of us spending $25 million, now we're just paying rent for the senior center, library. So there's good conversations. This is part of where I get into the study part of it. There's 5 or 6 concepts. It starts everything from rodeo association, medical, recreation, senior center, everything included, and that's the selling point to the developer, which is the number one plan that he has, and it goes all the way down to just including rec, senior center, and library. And you know, that is probably the least desired, because that's gonna basically be a city incurred cost if we do it that way. So with all that said, that's the study that we're looking at. It has been a little more complex. We hope as of December we can put it out for requests for proposals and see if there's any developers that are interested in that concept first before we dwindle down our options. Like the mayor said a couple of weeks ago, or actually, sorry, a couple months ago, we were approached with this new scenario, which a scenario that may not be this $20 million project, but may be a little less. So the city was approached with this. There's been lots of ideas thrown around about concepts and things like that. I've been asked by numerous people since this topic has came up, with my experience, do I think it'll work, or what do I think about that? And my answer has been pretty simple from the beginning. I don't know. I mean, until I get some kind of feedback from a study, I mean, how am I to know? I mean, I have experience, but I mean, I don't have experience predicting the future. So, I mean, I think the staff recommendation is to wait until we get a study before we proceed with purchasing any property. So, questions, comments?
Any questions for Jeremy?
Yeah, this people have been hired to do this study, you know. I didn't see anything in there where we were asking them to find out how much money we were gonna make on it, or what our revenue would be in the normal fund. Could we pay for it, or would we go in debt?
You're referring to the May study?
Well, this thing from Burdette, about,
Different study.
okay. Well,
That's a concept design and not necessarily a feasibility. I mean, it has some feasibility tied into it, but
well, I have heard, I don't know if it's true or not, that both Glen Rose and Granbury have put these things in and are going rogue with them, you know, and somebody needs to study that aspect.
well, I've heard the term bleeding money, but I will tell you that, and I was part of an organization, it's now called, it was Texas Civic Center Association. So I was being a part of the managers and directors for conference centers. Most conference centers aren't designed to make you money unless you build in money generating, like if you have a hotel next to you, or if you're doing food and beverage, things like that. Most conference centers are designed to bring people in your community and spend money in your community. Restaurants, hotels, make your businesses happy, creates jobs, stimulates the economy. If you're getting 50 to 60% recovery, you're doing well. So,
Well, all I'm saying is just, that part of it needs to be studied. I mean,
oh yeah, and that's what this feasibility study is doing. They're going to talk about the square footage. If you have this much space, and you can accommodate 700 people, this is what your rent's going to be, this is what your expected recovery is going to be. And it might be a number of 50, 60%. So then as a council or as a city, we got to decide, is 50 or 60% recovery going to be good enough for us? So if it's $1 million operation and it's going to cost us $300,000 a year, is the trade-off of people spending money in your community worth that investment? And that's where you get into the
financial feasibility is not in this study.
Not in that one, no.
It's in the May.
It's in the May. Yeah, that's right.
Other questions, Alan?
Jeremy, is the Leadership Stephenville Group considering the purchase of this other parcel of property that has come up relatively recently, or are they looking at exclusively new construction and following those lines?
I've talked to a couple. I mean, now I'm in Stephenville leadership myself, and a couple of those have came through that program. We started talking about it. I seen one at a restaurant. Their question is, they asked me, do you think this is going to work for us? Is this what when we set out back in March, is this what it is? And I said, I don't know. I mean, until I get the study, I don't know. So, I mean, I think their intentions are still the same. They want something that's feasible for the city, that we can accommodate, that we can make work. So, I mean, I never had any numbers for this facility that we're talking about. So for me to say that that's what they wanted, I don't think so. I mean, you have to ask each individual one if they think it was going to work, but my answer was, I don't know. And they mostly came to me asking me. So we have talked about it, but it was never like, as a committee, this is going to work. Does that answer your question? I mean,
It
I
does
kind of
in
danced
part.
around it a little bit, I guess, but
Has anybody, staff or otherwise, looked at this particular parcel of property specifically for the city's use?
oh, absolutely. I mean, we've went out there, we've talked about the possibilities, we've talked about scenarios, but have we ever said, this is it, this is what we're looking at? I haven't had that nod, and I didn't give it. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I've always said, we got to wait until we get the study back before we can really do. Myself, personally, from a director of community services standpoint, who's over the library, senior center, rec, I think we need to try to accommodate all those aspects. Is it with this and incorporating other phases into it? I mean, you know, I don't know. But I mean, I think we need to make sure we're accommodating all the community services, which what I'd like to do. So,
Well, considering the fact that Leadership Stevensville is probably not looking at that, do we need to seek professional help to do that evaluation from an architect, from some business people, from some other people who have experience with this, similar to what you have, but looking at it with objective eyes, rather than just from the perspective of, okay, this must get us something cheap or quick or whatever, but is it gonna be a good long-term investment? And an architect might not be the right way to go, but an architect can tell you a lot of design features that you could incorporate into an existing structure or not.
right. And I believe that's part of this other study that's been talked about with the rodeo association, who's some of them are here tonight, is just the concept design. I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, they talk about the rodeo being out here in this grounds. That's just part of the concept design, but also is the other aspects of it. Is it a good concept? Will it work? So I think this is the closest thing to what you're talking about, is seeing if those phases would work. I don't know what they're going to come back with. I mean, that's what the study
Yeah,
is
and
for.
Jeremy, could I clarify? Let me just ask this question. I mean, what I think we're doing is with this recent study.
From Burdette?
Right, is to answer that question, because the previous study was looking at more of a built from scratch scenario. And so
Well,
this
that was
is-
my
This
understanding
is gonna
also.
help, this is gonna help give us that, okay, what do we do with this other scenario? Is it good or bad? Or how does it fit? Yeah,
And we hope to have that answered
60
in
days.
60 days?
right.
Okay. And we hope to have Leadership Stephenville's information back in,
He gave me a deadline of December 16th. He hopes to have it sooner than that, so that'd be 90 days, more than 90-day range. But that's hopefully including some requests for proposals from maybe developers too at that point. So within that time frame, and I spoke to him again to make sure that was concrete, and he put it in writing for me. So hopefully we'll have it by then. So that's my recommendation, is that we wait. And I mean, I think that was kind of the intention of the whole time, is taking a more of a scientific approach to this instead of just jumping into it. So my recommendation would be to wait until we get that back.
okay.
Let me ask you.
Let me just, Alan, just another aspect of the Leadership Stephenville role here, and Jeremy mentioned it. Ilda Martinez, for example, works at Texas Health, and one of the things that she has relayed to the group is that once we know what it is, there may be opportunities to get money from Texas Health, for example, a lot of money to support a project like this because of the aspects that, so those what ifs are things that might be looked at as well. But there's no
And they would be-
commitment.
And
from
they would
Texas.
be a big part of a developer wanting to come in, is have tenants like that that's doing rehab or rehabilitation through that, having a developer, having a tenant in there like them, city, rodeo association or somebody running that, having those tenants is a big part of a developer coming in. So whether we get one or not, I mean, I have no clue. I mean, but that's just part of what the study will bring and kind of inform us. Yes,
Boyd,
sir.
you,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if part of the idea of building this thing is making enough money to build a senior citizens and library and rec, we need to focus on whether it's gonna do that. Now, I know you can't be sure, but we certainly need to focus on that, because if it doesn't do that, then all those things are gonna be dead. And if we go backwards on it, it's really gonna be a mess. So I'm saying we need to focus on the financial part of it, you know?
Well, and I think when we get the study back, is why it's important to wait, get the study back, then we can come up with a good approach of how to do this, instead of just jumping into any kind of purchase of property, anything of those.
Jeremy, this is, sadly enough, this has done nothing but raise more questions in my mind. This is outside the city limits, this particular parcel of property is. It would be my opinion that if we're gonna provide city services there, it should probably be annexed. Where does that fit with the annexation committee's plan? Is there anything in the works to annex anything in that area, in that direction? What will it do to impact the number of acres that they want to annex and the time frame for those other things? What about utilities? What will it cost to run water and sanitary sewer service to this property? If we, the city, are gonna develop it, aren't those things that we need to look at and consider? What about bringing it up to code as far as paving and those kinds of things, and parking spaces and those kinds of things? It's not, all this does to me is raise more questions
Sure.
that are, at this point, in my mind, unanswered. And I would not even consider purchasing this or any other piece of property unless I had the answers to those things.
Sure.
Right.
And I don't have the answers to those, so I mean, I
Are these
briefly talked
feasibility
with.
studies gonna provide any of that?
Yeah. I don't know. That would,
Probably
I mean,
not.
be a difference for somebody else to answer,
I'll
but.
tell you what, if Burdette is not answering that question, then we don't need to give him any
Okay.
money. Because
Um,
that's my understanding of one of the very reasons that we were asking for this to be done, is those type questions. So,
Well, and those to me are very important.
Right.
When we as a city consider investing in something like this, those are the things that we should know before we sign on the dotted line, so to
Right.
speak.
right,
I am aware of some of those because I had some brief conversations with Miss Miller about it when this all first came up, but I don't have the answers to any of those, and hopefully, the other contract will have that answer, so.
Okay, thank
Mm.
you.
yeah. I mean, Alan, those are great points, and I think, if Jeremy, you can help and make sure that the effort that's taking place in the next 60 days with that gives us, an outline for those. I mean, that, and my understanding was one of the major intents of that whole effort. And, you know, mind the property does border the city limits, and so the annexation piece of that is, it's not like we've got to violate any annexation rules for leapfrogging or anything like that, but we do need to know the details.
Well, and another question that comes up, if that property is being annexed, what about the other property owners that are contiguous to that? Would they want to be annexed also?
Right.
That would be the perfect time for them if that was the case. And, you know, there, as I said, all it does is elevate this to more questions in my mind. Jeremy, thank you. I'm not trying to
Oh,
put
no,
you
you're
on the
good.
hot spot. This is really a big decision for us.
Mhm.
How we proceed as a council can determine a lot of the future of the city.
Yeah.
Expenditure-wise and revenue-wise and growth-wise also.
Well, I mean, I said if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Let's take a good approach to it, and, I mean, I want it, you know, from a director standpoint, take care of my departments, but as a citizen, I think it's important too, so.
Is the arena a solid part of this plan, or?
I guess it would be the arena would be a phase of this. Talking with the rodeo association, when this particular topic came up, they said they can get most of the materials for the arena donated. I mean, I'll let them talk to that. But I think, I'll let the mayor speak to this too. His intent was to allow them to use the land, maybe a lease type agreement, 30-year lease, with the rodeo association running that particular arena and building that arena. That was my understanding of how it was going, and I think that's the
Would that
intent.
not be in direct competition with Lone Star? I mean, that old bull about in addition to,
Mhm.
it's not in addition to, it's in competition with.
Right, I mean, guess
The way I look at
it could be. I mean, you could look at it that way, yeah.
I
It's
think
not
it-
only the way that you look at it, I think that Brad Boyd had made the contact with several of us, and he explained that it would be in competition, flat out.
it. And also that it wasn't a standing room only thing with the biggest event they've had, the recent BRCA rodeo. They didn't sell out. They had seats left. And,
The only thing I'll add to you is-
Goes round is not enough capacity there.
The only thing I'll add is as I started this first study, I mean, the rodeo association wasn't a big part of this first study. It came in kind of late, but that'll be part of the feasibility part of it as far as the whole complex. That kind of came in late with this particular property. I mean, I haven't had a chance to really analyze the competition part. I mean, that was part of that was kind of thrown in, and offered from the rodeo association. I think they can speak to the competition part. From what was told to me, that it was different. It was a different competition, I guess, is what I guess it was explained. So,
Mayor, I think it'd probably be appropriate to see if Mr. Decker would like to make any comments regarding the competition with the other arena or
Well,
not, if he'd like to do that.
Could I ask a
Sure.
couple of questions,
Yeah,
if you don't
yeah,
mind?
go ahead.
The feasibility study is going to be dealing with revenues, correct?
right.
Okay. I would probably be very disappointed if it did not include Glen Rose, Granbury, and Hamilton with that as well, because we're looking at essentially the same marketing area on that. When you were testing the energy
Like,
level.
can I touch on that real
Yeah, sure,
quick?
go ahead.
The preliminary that he gave me had the 5 to 6 surrounding counties, and it was all included in that. It's all included in this feasibility part. I had a list of facilities that he's already targeted for this area to compare to, so it
Fair
will be
enough.
included in there.
That would make it a lot more accurate. When you were checking the energy level, you mentioned that you talked to leadership Stephenville, Parks and Rec, and that type of thing. At any point, was there an effort to get a general consensus from the public, or just basically some of these committees and so forth?
Well, I will say, it was leadership Stephenville talking to the committees. I was there as I guess a liaison at the point, but I think they felt their way around the community, but I don't think there was a full survey done. I think that at that point they were trying to gain support from the senior center, library, and Parks and Rec board. I don't believe there was a full survey done from them.
Okay.
So,
Let me jump in here and just say this, Rhett, because I put a lot of, and I think we should put a lot of value in the comprehensive plan as a document that speaks to your question about, does the community value a multipurpose community complex? And there's no question that the answer to that is yes. I think what the Leadership Stephenville group was doing was those boards that are supposedly representatives of the community. So when he's talking about pulsing the energy level to see is there an interest or not. So those are all points of information. They're not, I mean, are you suggesting, and maybe we should go out and redo the section of the comprehensive plan to see if if the community still thinks that that's a priority. I mean, it's all part of what we do here, I guess, is
Are
try to get a
you
sense.
asking me if that would be feasible to do?
Well, I'm just, I'm just wanting to clarify.
Sure,
Points.
sure, I honestly do, because the feedback that I've gotten on this has not been positive. I think that probably the most scientific thing that we have to go by And I'm not saying that it's extremely accurate, but, you know, there's the poll in the Empire Tribune, where that roughly, you know, 70% of the people, the way it was worded anyway, were not in favor of it. Just,
I will, as we took the pulse, I mean, the original concept, I mean, I can say that there was a lot of support for it, just people talking around town when we were in the midst of all that. I recently done a survey for our Parks and Rec, and I'm pretty sure it would probably go, if I did a survey for the senior center or whatnot, I'm sure that they would support a facility that housed the senior center. But our Parks and Rec survey, pretty unanimously that we still need Parks and Rec facilities. So I think there's support in general for general sections. I mean, I think that there's always going to be a hesitation, and this is just my opinion. I bet you there's going to be huge hesitation because of money right now and how our roads are. So, I mean, I think that's why this approach, this feasibility study, is let's take an approach. Once we get this study back, let's come up with a way to fund it. Just like we did with the pay plan, figure out a way to fund it. You know, maybe it's 5 years down the road, maybe it's 10 years down the road, but we'll have the information, and you know there'll be plenty of chance to educate the community about it. So I think there's enough support in each individual. Did we take a pulse as a whole? No, we didn't. But I mean, that's certainly something we can do before we spend any money, of course. So.
well, mentioning the money and funding, personally myself, what I would like to see is it be placed on the ballot as a bond initiative, and I think we'll have our answer when we do that.
Yeah.
However it goes, yes or no.
Sure. I mean, that's the initiative of the council and mayor and Mr. Bridges. So I mean,
Yeah, and let me say this, and I'm not saying this but in opposition to what you just said, but what I'm gonna say here is, in my opinion, bonds are taxing citizens. It's not a polling mechanism. When I've said public-private joint venture, what I've said is we ought to find innovative ways to bring private money to meet this demand and not put the burden on the taxpayer. So I wouldn't want to send this out for a bond, not because I think it would fail, but because I don't want to place a tax burden on the citizens for this. I want to find innovative financing to make this happen, and I think we can. And I think what we've got to do is roll up all our sleeves, and once we get this, like Jeremy's saying, here's the needs, here's how you meet the needs, now how do you fund the needs? And see if it works. A business-based approach. To me, a bond is a tax, and I mean personally, I'm opposed to that.
Yeah,
mean,
I know
I don't
from-
think that we should have a bond initiative to do this.
And I'll say this, Leadership Stephenville, when I first sat down with them, the goal was to build a facility, grandiose facility without spending one dime.
Well, if that could be done, I think everyone
That's the
would do
great,
it,
and
yeah.
I mean, so that's the
But-
goal, was see what the private developer and things like that, how that goes. I mean, we'll just see. I mean, we'll have to, let's get, my biggest thing to stand in front of you is let's get the study. Let's see what we can do at that point. But let's not rush to any major decisions. Let's see how that goes. So,
Okay.
That's it.
Any other questions for Jeremy?
I hope I answered all your questions.
Oh, you
If I
did?
Okay.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And one other point I wanted to ask you, Jeremy, that we had talked at one point about there potentially being more than one facility, that this wouldn't all be one location. So the fact that we might have convention space in one part of town and the senior citizens, if we were to build new in a more centrally located place downtown, keeping with the intent of the original park study, is that still?
Absolutely. That was actually part of the gentleman's preliminary stuff before he got to the feasibility. He kind of sent a preliminary, and he likes the synergy between a library and a senior center. So he would love to be able to piece that together, whether we include the rec, conference center, rodeo association, hospital, rehab, all that. Those pieces can fall into place, but he likes the synergy between the library and the senior center, and his recommendation already is that we try to find a way to piece that together. So
Okay.
whether it's a separate facility just for those two, and then we do something else with the other ones, except I'm eager to see his final report. I mean, I can talk all day about the love and the need and all that for our facilities, but I mean, who am I to say what'll work and what won't work? I mean, I don't have that kind of experience, so.
Okay.
This doesn't mention senior citizen or library or recreation, period. Not in there. Okay.
The, the May study does.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd just like to thank Jeremy for all his hard work on this. There's so many needs, multi-purpose conference center, senior center, library, animal shelter. Ever since I've been on city council since 2008, we've had on the list we need a better animal shelter, dog park, multi-event arena, visitor center, possible retail stores with frontage. That's a lot of different diverse groups that are all wanting different things, and it makes your job hard, but we do appreciate all the effort that you're putting in this to give us the information that we need to make our decisions in the future. And I know it's hard, but hang in there and keep up the good work.
I mean, it's a tribute to our staff and our advisory boards. I mean, they make it work with what we give them, and they do a good job too, so, that's all I gotta say.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you. Hopefully your leg's not numb now, but it probably is.
Blame it on Alan Nix if it is.
Right.
Get in line.
So, Pat, you had suggested, we did not publish this as a public hearing, but in courtesy to anybody that would be interested in saying something this evening, if you would like to, I know it'd be helpful for the council, if y'all are interested in, and if anybody's willing to come up and say anything, if anybody would like to, I'll allow that at this time, so.
Good evening. I'm Chad Decker. For those of you that don't know me, I am the owner of Heartache Barbecue and the president of the Cowboy Capital of the World Pro Rodeo Association here in Stephenville. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for your service to this great city. It's the greatest place on earth. Couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Great place to raise a family and a great place to call home. Just to clarify and just to give you a little bit of a background of where we're at now with our rodeo association. In 2011, the CCPRA was formed out of the ECLA, the former Erath County Livestock Association, relinquished its rights to the rodeo to our new association that we formed in 2012. In 2011, the total payout for our rodeo was $28,061. That's what it was in 2011. 2012, as our group took over for the first year, we took that number to $49,630 in total payout. This year in 2015, we took the total payout to $132,466.40, ranking us in the top 5 in the United States and Canada. So I think that is a pretty good testament as to how hard we're working to keep Stephenville known as the Cowboy Capital of the World. Sitting behind me tonight are several representatives from world champions, NFR qualifiers, and citizens of this town that compete for us and represent us each year in front of thousands and thousands of people in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the National Finals Rodeo. We are home to a very successful state football team, state-ranked football team, high school football team. Very successful Tarleton State University athletic system and program. Don't know if many of you know that we're standing amongst 16 world champions that live here in Stephenville currently, 57 NFR qualifiers, 37 Cowboy inductees to the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and 57 inductees to the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame that live right here in Stephenville, Texas. So make no bones about it, guys, we've grown, and we've grown rapidly. And also make no bones about what we're trying to do is in no way be in competition with Lone Star Arena. That's not our goal. It was never our goal from the get-go. You know, our rodeo as Mr. Warren brought up a while ago, Saturday night, we had record attendance. And there might have been one or two seats in the house that was left open, but, standing room only, there was a lot. And the Lone Star Arena, I'm a competitor there as well as these gentlemen, and will continue to be a competitor at Lone Star Arena. I'm a genuine supporter. My business probably supports Lone Star Arena more than any business in town, period, with anything and everything that they do. We couldn't survive this. They are the number one moneymaker for this town, make no bones about it. And like I said, in no way are we trying to compete with that whatsoever. The only thing that we're having to compete with is our capacity crowd that is dealing with a facility that's not able to handle a 3,500 to 4,000 spectators at one time. We're dealing with parking problems. We're dealing with restroom facility problems. We're dealing with concession problems. We're, and I know there's going to be several people that are going to, say, well, how are you going to fix it? How are you going to fix it with the new facility? Well, in a joint effort between ourselves and some other private entities in town that are looking to help us facilitate this, and partnership with the city of Stephenville, that, make no bones about it, will claim the cowboy capital of the world at the drop of a hat. We've got banners hanging on the courthouse square that say such. So we're just asking ourselves as an association to help us remain successful and help us to keep this rodeo growing, to help it keep it on the map, to help it keep it in the top 5 in all of North America and Canada, and to help partner with us on a facility that will facilitate our rodeo and our rodeo only. There would be other options. The park, it accommodates a tractor pull a couple of times a year for the Antique Tractor Associate or Club. They're a farmer's market. I'm a local restaurant owner. I would love nothing more than to buy local grown produce. There's several things that it could be used for, but as an open arena with just covered grandstands is in no way going to be in competition with what Lone Star Arena has for itself. The major competitions that they have out there require the 2 arenas. They require 400 stalls. They require 45 RV hookups. They require shavings and all the accommodations for a mass amount of people to stay for a very long time. And with that being said, those events are not they're not ticketed events. They're not ticketed. It's a come and go, free to the public spectator event that's not there for 3 or 4 hours to put on a show for your community and your sponsors that are helping to keep Stephenville, Texas on the map. And don't stand before you and before these people or anybody in here trying to claim that we're in direct competition with Lone Star Arena. And that's that couldn't be anything further from the truth. Like I said, I've got some issues that we have to overcome at the facility itself, and it's not issues that just ourselves have had. I mean, I've talked with other associations that's had some of the same issues, but with that said, the Stephenville, Texas Cowboy Capital of the World Pro Rodeo would love to have a home of its own, and we would love to have Stephenville, Texas right underneath it, and we would love to partner with the city of Stephenville to make this happen. So with that, I'd say thank you, and we'll take any questions.
The city doesn't need to participate in getting in competition with Lone Star. I mean, that's not the city's business to get in competition with any private enterprise.
I completely understand, but I don't understand where we're going to be getting into competition with Lone Star.
Well, you've got one arena now, and you're talking about 2.
No, sir, I'm talking about one open-air arena with a covered grandstand. That's all I'm talking about for our association.
Okay, would you be taking anything away from Lone Star?
Just our rodeo.
And that's the only event?
That's the only event we would go after, period. That's all I'm asking for.
And
And
you're
I-
talking about the PRCA? right?
yes, sir, I'm talking about the PRCA rodeo. I'm not talking about going after any other events that Lone Star has. No, sir. That's not what this is about.
Okay, did Joe Beaver still schedule those PRCA events?
No, sir. Joe Beaver has nothing to do with our PRCA rodeo. Joe Beaver brings in the Joe Beaver's Junior Championship Challenger, and he is in Glen Rose now. So, yeah, he has nothing to do with our pro rodeo, no, sir.
Well, do you have any assurance that PRCA rodeo would come to a new arena?
Would y'all have assurances that we would come to?
Well, the event that just took place,
Yes, sir.
you've got assurances that would move to,
I'm the president of it. Yes, sir, it would, and we would certainly move to it. That's why I'm here tonight, to ask for some help from the city and a partnership to do that.
you'd be taking that from Lone Star.
That one event and only, yes, sir, just due to the fact that we're,
One event, two events, it doesn't make any difference, it's still in competition with free enterprise if the city gets in it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dried, the city don't need to be involved in it, to me. I mean, I just got one vote, but that's the way it's.
I completely understand where you're coming from, Mr. Warren, I do. And, you know what? I stand here as the president of a rodeo association only, and I represent a group of 11 committee members that we try to put on the best rodeo that we can in the city that we love and we love dearly. And listening to some of my sponsors, a lot of my customers as spectators, and some of the facility issues that we have outgrown, that's the only reason that I stand here in front of the city of Stephenville, is to ask for your help in combining with our efforts to build us a house of our own.
About how much land, total land do you need for this operation?
Parking in all 25 to 30 acres would be more than sufficient.
Well, if the city gave you the land or sold it to you for $1,
Mhm.
could you handle it from the other end from there on?
Yes, sir. I feel, rest assured, we've done our homework. We've worked with some arena manufacturing companies that are more than willing to help us, just simply because we are the cowboy capital of the world. We have it would be an honor for them to have something like that in Stephenville, Texas, with their name on it. And
Okay, so if the city purchases this land we're talking about,
yes, sir.
say 22 acres?
Well, the way I understand it, sir, Mr. Warren, there's a parcel of property behind the city facilities here that house nothing but broken bricks and asphalt chips and such. That in itself would be enough to be cleaned up and make a rodeo arena out of that.
But if you own the land, you guys could handle it, that'd be.
Oh, yeah, we would definitely.
No more involvement.
No, sir. We would manage it. We would maintain it. We would sign whatever kind of lease that there would need to be signed, and a lease document, simple lease document.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about if the city buys the whole thing,
Mhm.
sells you the 22, 25 acres you need for $1 or whatever,
Mhm.
and then the city's out,
Yes, sir.
you could take it from there.
You bet I could.
You build the whole thing.
Yes,
The
yeah.
city's no more involvement, no lease, no nothing.
No, sir. No, sir. I mean, I could go you one step further and say we could put it on a 100-year lease, and the city maintains the property.
No, I'm talking about the city getting out of it.
Okay.
The city don't need to be involved in
I understand.
anything in private enterprise competition, that's just the way I see it.
Okay. I completely understand your point.
This is redneck country. I mean, I bought a horse 3 days ago,
Yes, sir.
a stud colt.
You want to buy another one?
81 years old. I bet he does. No.
See if sucker root.
Well, like I said,
Could he see our
ladies and
vote lines,
gentlemen, this is not at all what this is about, and we're sitting here, and all of us are friends with Lone Star Arena. We're all friends with the owners of Lone Star Arena. Like I said, Boyd and I have done business together for a long time, and I in no way would go seek any kind of business, any kind of competition from him whatsoever, and that's not why I'm here tonight.
He does donate that arena to y'all to have your facility, to have your event in. correct?
We do have yes, we do have the arena. Now, we also in turn give him a buck and shoot sponsorship that we normally would sell for $4,000. We also hire after rodeo entertainment that usually costs us between $8,000 and $10,000 that helps him sell his libations after the rodeo. You know, we try to do our part to help him on his end too with the bottom line.
Thanks.
Mr. Decker, without being adversarial, and don't take this the wrong way,
No, if you,
is there any way for you to partner with the current owners or buy that property and use for your facility rather than go out and start from scratch? Starting from scratch is going to be time consuming, and it can be expensive. Even if people donate things to you, it can still be expensive.
yes, sir.
Are there accommodations that could be made at the existing facility that would serve y'all as well? And it has some of the things that you're talking about having to develop already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just asking questions to try to understand the relationship and the other issues that are involved.
Yes, sir. I completely understand your question there. Could we go out and buy that facility ourselves? No, sir. We're a nonprofit 501c company.
Okay.
I would like to give you a little more information about what we do in the community as far as our sponsorships go. In 2014, we gave away over $10,000 in scholarships to local youth and spent $7,500 at the local stock show to support our youth off of our proceeds. This year in 2015, we've already given over $20,000 in cash and prizes to our American hero, Miss Lauren Ludwig, that we presented to on Friday night, as well as $11,000 in scholarships on Sunday. So over $32,000 has already been given back to the locals off of our proceeds. So no, sir, we cannot afford it.
Okay. Is there any kind of a partnership with a private business like that y'all could enter into since you are a nonprofit? See, I'm learning things here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand. You know, to be honest with you, we haven't gone that far. The arena itself, it is what it is. It's got, you know, it's a great facility. It's great for team ropings. It's great for the barrel racings. It's great to have the two arenas where you can run off 2,500 teams in a day or in a weekend. It's great for that. To facilitate a crowd through there logistically, to get them in and out of there, the parking, the grandstand seating. There's handicap issues that we've had with the handicap accessibility. There's no handicap accessibility at the back arena. There's no restroom facilities at the back side of the arena. There's no concession facilities at the back side of the arena. So there are several issues that would come into play there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just got one quick one. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. You're gonna build an arena, and you're gonna use it 5 days out of the year, and 360 days out of the year, it's just gonna sit there.
Well, I mean, like I said before, there's several other county or citywide events that could go on there, like the tractor pull and like a farmer's market, or you know, an outdoor concert, or you know, it would be totally open to the public itself to house any kind of events at no charge whatsoever.
Other questions? I want to ask one because I've heard it in other meetings, and Tommy, it's nice to see you here tonight. If y'all don't know, Tommy Graham, manager at Lone Star Great, came down here from Lazy E. And we're glad to have you here versus in Oklahoma. The rodeo industry is growing. It is changing. The American has been a game changer. The question, Jerry, that you ask about competition, I'd like to hear from you guys a little bit about what we could do that we're not today, because Lone Star is just, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's just what it is. I mean, what else could we do, or how do we create an incentive so that the Texas High School Finals is in Stephenville, so that we steal the college finals to the home of the premier college rodeo in the nation, so that we don't have Equibrand building outlets in Granbury, so that we don't have Helo-Matic being built in Colorado. How do we take this out of us against each other to us beating everybody else? That's what I'd like to hear. Because you've talked about us maybe being able to attract some other rodeos. I mean, Lone Star doesn't host a high school event for a finals right now. I don't think. The Region 3 finals? Huh?
Are you talking?
Yeah, well,
Want me to go ahead and-
well, I mean, just,
Yeah, far as a high school event, along with Tarleton right now, the owner of Lone Star Arena, we don't charge them either. That is something that's given to the community. We have Region 3, we have 3 rodeos plus their finals here. When I got here, Cody was the president of Region 3, and we spoke. I think at that time he was either Glen Rose or Hamilton. Is that correct, with your finals? And we have more contestants here from Erath County, going back to what Chad had said on that behalf. But we do host these things. There's a lot of different things that's happened here recently that's been very concerning for everybody, because there's been a lot of words been thrown out there that there hasn't been anything that's been in writing. I think part of one individual I know on social media that's on one of the boards had mentioned about 2 facilities and it being air conditioned. In order to do that for a high school rodeo to get their finals, yes, you have to have a number of arenas that can be seen from one central location. That doesn't just work anywhere, and you're talking about something that's very unique, and there's only a few places that have that right now, and that's the reason they're able to stay where they're at this point. And there's a couple other associations in Oklahoma City, and I've spoke with them before on behalf of another facility. And it's not something that can just be done overnight. It takes a lot of other amenities. There's issues here within Stephenville as well on that side of it. We may not run into them as much in the summertime as we do in the wintertime when school's in, as far as amenities coming and going. There's hotels that we don't have enough hotels at certain times of the year. Now, as far as going to that point, at what extent does it take to get another hotel built? I don't know. I mean, that's going to be something that I'm not knowledgeable of right now. But there's, I think there is some ways, that we have been very gracious to have the Cowboy Capital Rodeo Association. It's been great. It's been good for us. It's been good for the community, and hopefully it's been good for the rodeo committee as well. There's some issues there, and I know the owner has went on record as saying, you know, with some help, he would love to make that even better. You know, we have 138 acres there behind it. That could be something as well, to where we could all join together and make something. You know, there again, it's outside the city limits, as far as the city of Stephenville being able to come on board and do something with that. And we understand that. But you know, there's some other issues there as far as the economic impact and everything, and I know it's been brought up publicly that we had lost 1 or 2 events, and that is gonna happen, irregardless where you're at, or what event it is, and same with Super Bowl or anything else, it's gonna happen. I would, you know, we love being a part of this community, you know, and would like to see that continue for the future. And it's been very difficult here lately under certain circumstances, but as far as the competition with the amenities of what we do have, we can't have another facility, neither one of them's gonna work. And that's a given. I mean, you can do any kind of study you want, look at any other arenas anywhere and size of it, per capita and everything else with what events they like to have. But in the same sense, you know, I think from what has just now come very clear is it wouldn't be in competition on behalf of the rodeo movement, just the rodeo. But it does open it up down the road to where, but he does want to start utilizing that for other things, and it becomes an issue. And that's been seen. But, you know, I haven't got to talk with a lot of people here about this, you know, and honestly, it's just came out on the arena side of it here in the last 2.5, 3 weeks. You know, up till that point, it was a banquet hall and maybe a civic center or something of that sort. When it started, I believe even in May when I heard about it. But there's a lot of ongoing things. You know, they're good problems to have, but we'll have some of the similar issues this weekend. But you know, at the end of it, you know, it's nice to be full on weekends that's coming up with World Series team roping. There's no other place I know of in the United States can have 3 of the largest team ropings in one facility in the United States. You know, and that brings a lot of people in from outside the community as well. Nothing against on the rodeo side, but when you want people here, we need people from afar to come in here, where they're staying nights in our motel, eating at our restaurants, and buying fuel, and paying a lot of tax money. But I don't know. I mean, you know, it's all about location right now, and hopefully that answers your question,
All right.
Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions for Tommy? Okay, thanks, appreciate it. Okay, any other comments from anyone this evening you'd like to? Okay,
I'm Roy Hayes, I'm with the Senior Advisory Board. Probably a little bit of getting the horse before the cart right now, sorry about that. If we do purchase that land and property out there, I'd like to put in our endorsement that Senior Advisory Board would like to see us make part of that useful for the Senior Citizen Center. The current building was built like in 1879, and that would be a huge improvement for us. And I've sent all y'all kind of an email addressing some of our concerns and our thoughts on it and the cost benefit analysis on it. If you have any questions for me, then I'll be glad to try to answer them.
okay, any questions? I really appreciate you giving us that input, because I'd heard a lot about concern about travel out to that area, and
There is some concern about travel, but I mean, what we got already has some of the same problems. I mean, if you're traveling in Washington Graham, you're still gonna have those same problems unless you sneak down Pearl and down Long and come in through the back way.
right,
And then I've heard other issues about people, well, this is within wheelchair range. Well, the problem is that if you ever build a new one anywhere, it's not gonna be in wheelchair range unless you raise the properties over there and build it in the exact same place, which I don't think is feasible.
Right, okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay,
How you guys all doing?
good.
Haven't seen you in a while. Me and my wife moved here. My wife went to college here in Stephenville, and I'm a NFR qualifier from Oregon. With many of us that rodeo for a living, most of us are all out of state that all moved here now, due to the opportunity that is going on here in y'all's city, and it's something that's really inspiring for a lot of us cowboys, because you guys welcome us home from the NFR last year, and you know, the whole city and all welcomed us, and you know, it felt like home. It was really cool what the town has done for us, and we appreciate that, and I enjoy listening to your guys' vision about where you want this to go. That it's not about what's going on right now. It's a 5-year plan, it's a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, and the way I see it when I go to that rodeo now at Stephenville is this committee has done a great job of growing it, and you can see that they have a vision. You can tell it just in the impact that it's had from 2012 to now, just in the amount of added money that they get. You know, so it makes me proud to see where they're going. They want to be even bigger. And you know, when I've been here on a Saturday night and looked at the beer lines, that there's 3 lines to get into that you had to go through in a zigzag just to get a beer. And you know, I've watched some people standing outside the lines, and you know, to get in, and to me it just looks like with their vision they're wanting to go beyond what that facility is. And it's nothing against the facility. We love it. I think it's a great start, but the vision that they want to have, when you consider that if you're trying to, your fans to me is what's the important issue. The Lone Star Arena to me is a great competitor arena. It brings in your jackpots, as in your team ropings, your barrel races, you know, the competitors that bring in your money for your hotels, and which most of them have their trailers, so your plug-ins and your eating spots, and they keep the feed stores going great, and it's great for the economy. But where I think where they were wanting to head with this is the possibility of getting a PBR here, you know, where you're bringing in thousands of fans from all over the world. To me, that's hotels, and you know, rodeo is an exciting time right now. You got the ERA getting developed, where they're trying to promote themselves and be some of the biggest promoters in the world. And not only that, with the PRCA also coming to town, this is where it's all at. I go back and forth to Oregon and go everywhere across the world, and everyone keeps asking, what's going on with Stephenville? Why is everyone moving there? Well, it's simple. We come back from the NFR, and you guys tell us how proud you are. You are of us, and you know, for cowboys, who's proud of a cowboy? So that's something that a lot of us don't even have when we go to our hometowns. You know, so that's what's going on. You got world champions moving here. You got college kids coming here because the main guys are here, and to me, that's just the vision that I was planning on seeing tonight from everyone. That's what I thought where it was going was. You know, let's see how many fans we can get here. Let's just show the whole world. Let's bring in the CBS or the Fox Sports. Let's bring in the TV cameras. Let everyone see what's going on. And that's where the fans follow. And I'm just excited to be a part of it. And I hope I can. I told them I don't know how to weld, but I'll help. We'll do whatever we can. We want to see this going forward. We're proud to be here. My wife and I, we're gonna hopefully get a retirement home too. We might end up needing that because. We plan on staying here the rest of our lives. So, and there's a lot of cowboys that are willing to help do whatever we can do to help this going forward. So, I don't know if I answered any questions, but I just felt to say that.
Could you give us your name for the record, please?
Charlie Crawford.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Hey, do you mind a question?
Oh, yeah.
Just for a point of information.
Yes, sir.
If you could pick, or just tell me, what's your favorite place to go?
To the rodeos?
In the world, yeah.
In the world.
In the world. What's the place so I can go and look at it and see what it's supposed to look like?
The NFR is pretty fun just because of the excitement, the energy. It's the end of the year.
Is that the best place?
The American. To me, the American is what has just shown the whole world that people love to see the Cowboys. They sell their athletes. They bring in TV. It's at it's at the AT&T Center. I mean, shoot, the Cowboys play there. So I mean, that's things that we've never got to see and then be involved with it. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal.
Okay, so let's go to just a real rodeo arena. Best real rodeo arena, not.
I love Dodge City. I love Pendleton. I love them outdoor rodeos. I love the just the excitement of having big stands and big fans, and I think a lot of people like being outdoors, especially this time of year where it's nice out, and those are the things that I enjoy. It's hard. It's hard a lot of times when you're inside this time of year. It's the climate control is hard. It's hard to manage. So when you're in there, it's hot and sticky, and or if it's cold, it's cold. So I just enjoy them outside rodeos for some reason. That's my personal preference, though.
They still have the Pendleton whiskey up there?
Yes, sir. It tastes pretty good too. You got to be careful, though.
What do you say about it?
Yeah.
It's medicinal.
Yeah. Yeah. Moderation.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming tonight.
You bet. And I
It's really-
appreciate what you guys do for us. We all appreciate it. So thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Cody Johnson. I'm a local business owner. I own Twitchy J, and I own also apparel by Twitchy J in town. This is more, I've been sitting here thinking what I was gonna say. It's more of a pep talk to the community, the city council, the mayor. When I was a kid growing up in this town, the rodeo was a big thing for us. I mean, the community come together, we all come to rodeo. That was a big deal. That's where I learned how to dance. I think that's where I kissed my first girl. But over the years, for whatever reason, the rodeo lost its oomph here in the community. But at the same time, we were stating ourselves as the cowboy capital of the world. I travel all over the country, as well as some of the cowboys here, Charlie and Martin and Jackie. They ask where I'm from. I'm from Stephenville, Texas. Cowboy capital of the world. Everybody knows who we are and what we're made of. I'm proud to have raised my family here. I'm proud to have started two businesses here. Mr. Mayor said, we need more Equibrands here. We need more Hillamatics here in the area. I made my business here in town, and I ship my product all over the nation. Working on a deal in Canada, working a deal in Brazil, working a deal in the European theater, based off my cowboy roots, my cowboy heritage. I'm proud to be from Stephenville. I'm proud to have raised my family in Stephenville, and we just have to basically all kind of like Mr. Mayor said, let's come up with some innovative ways to keep us known as a cowboy capital of the world, and keep the pride that we've all built. And Charlie had said about him moving here and staying here. Well, I've got 5 or 6 sure enough what I call best friends. Every one of them are not from here. Every one of them has come to college here, has moved here from somewhere else, that have come and stayed. I'm from here. I was born here. I can't imagine living anywhere else. I'm proud to be a Stephenvillian, if that's even the proper word. But I just think we just all need to put our heads together and come up with some innovative ways and make it work for everybody. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Cody? Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right.
I'm Jackie Crawford. My husband Charlie Crawford talked a while ago, but the biggest thing that I think that everybody's wanting to bring is I'm a Lone Star fan. I've competed there so many times, and I think it's a great facility. But you're looking at, I think that maybe people who don't rodeo or don't compete don't realize that there's 2 separate scenarios. You're looking at these 2 places. Your bigger place that, like you say, the rodeo committee is looking at would be for bigger things like your PBRs, your events that the Lone Star couldn't accommodate at all. So you're looking at bringing a whole new aspect of business into this town and more events. Because the thing is that, as everybody's talked about, and I'm sure it's been beat over and over again, is we are the cowboy capital of the world, obviously. Well, why not capitalize on that? You know, why not bring more events in? Everybody wants to be here, they just can't be here. Those events can't come here because we can't host it. So why not try to capitalize on what we are known for? I've been lucky enough to do clinics all over the world. I've done them in Sweden, I've done them in Australia, teaching roping. I've gotten to go to Hawaii, all over this nation. And there is not one person, even in Sweden, even in Australia, when I say where I'm from, and I say Stephenville, Texas, they're like, doesn't so-and-so live there? Doesn't Ty Murray live there? Didn't Cody O live there? You know, people recognize this as that. So why not have another facility if we're able to, if this committee is able to take care of it and have people who are willing to come into it, why not be able to serve every entity of the cowboy world that we can? That's just kind of my, I'm gonna be very brief up here, but that's kind of where I see it as, some people see it as competition, but there's, like you said, Mayor, it's growing. So why shouldn't we be able to use what we can and our people in this town to let the town benefit off of that? So that's all I
Okay.
have.
Any
Thank you, guys.
questions for Jackie? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Try no offense, but I now know who has the business smarts in the family. So. That's great. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, so back to the agenda. Pat, you had one of the things that we were asked, we received a letter asking us about this property, and so tell us again what you need from us as a council related to that.
As council will recall, earlier this month, I provided you with a copy of the letter I had received from the church, attempting to gauge the city's interest in that property. They're not asking for an immediate decision on whether the city intends to purchase it or not, but they are asking, is the city still interested in the property? And so I'll ask the council that if this is still an alternative that you all are considering. The church has requested some type of response from the city by October 1. Is the council's preference that I draft a letter indicating that the council is still considering this location as an alternative and request with Mr. Allen mentioned the one study not due till middle of December, requesting that they provide us with 90 to 120 days to make a final decision as to whether the council is interested in pursuing that property. I ask if that's the council's desire.
Okay, discussion about that?
Does the fact that we authorized a study to investigate it not, does that not qualify as an expression of our interest?
No, they have had other potential buyers express an interest, and so I think they want to know that the city's got has some kind of firm interest in that. And I think even with the letter, I don't know that it's going to guarantee that they won't sell the property, and I don't know that should be a factor in the decision. I think you wait until you've got all the questions answered from the two studies. But I do think that if you are interested in this property, then I think that we should provide them with a response that indicates that council is still interested in this alternative and request that they give us 90 to 120 days for you all to make a final decision as to which way you want to go.
My only comment is, why say no now before we even studied it? I mean, that's an easy way of looking at it. Why should we say no? And say, yeah, we're considering it, which is not the same thing as saying we're gonna buy it.
Right.
You know, that's my thought.
Kenny, could
Any
I,
other
can I,
comments?
could I
Yeah.
propose that we authorize Pat to send them a letter telling them that we are still interested pending the, information we receive from these studies, if they would consider holding the property until February 1st or something along that line to give us time to get the information back, go through it, and then then make a decision whether we want to proceed with it or not.
Yeah, back to Mark's point, though, you used two words that I want us to ponder, interest and hold. Those are pretty, leading, and maybe there's a way to say it, that we are considering versus interested, and we'll inform them of our decision versus saying hold.
I wouldn't ask them to hold it. If I
Right.
said that, I didn't intend to say that,
Yeah.
but I would ask Pat to tell them that we have an interest in the property, but that we will not make a final decision until we have the information
Yeah.
from these studies.
Right. I mean, that doesn't cost us anything. I mean, is there consensus with us
Well, we
doing
spent
that?
$15,000 to pay for the study. That
Right.
should be a pretty good indication that we're interested in it.
Right.
So, why not write them a letter?
Okay.
Kinda like Mark, that
With-
does
without
indicate
any
some
kind of
interest.
obligation.
At this point, it's a free option,
Right.
frankly.
Mhm.
Actually, it's not an option because they aren't bound to it, but there's just no reason not to cut it out.
Now, not to, this isn't a negative statement, but 90 days is right at the finish line, and we don't move that fast. So we're not that agile. So 120 days may be the earliest we can expect, I think. If we have the information back in 90, I mean, giving ourselves 30 days to at least have a committee meeting and a public hearing, and, I mean, there's some other things that we need to factor in here. I wouldn't be opposed to us saying 180 days. I mean, I don't wanna kick the can down the road, but I also don't wanna back us in a corner with some artificial deadline that we come around and find ourselves over Christmas trying to get an answer. So, Jerry,
They
when's
can't
your,
sell it to
when's your
anybody else
hunting,
anyway.
when's your hunting trip?
They can't sell it to anybody else anyway.
What? Well, so, yeah, I mean, let's be realistic, I guess. Could we say the end of January? Is that?
When did they first bring this to the city? Was that in May? I know we talked about it in June, off-site retreat.
Probably May
May,
or so.
okay.
And I'm not one to put them off, I'm just wanting us to, I mean, if we get the study back on the 16th of December and Pat looks to hold a meeting of us and we're all, hey, we're gone for Christmas, you know, it may be really difficult to schedule a meeting that last 2 weeks of December,
Well,
so.
that's why I said February 1. That gives us the
Yeah.
whole month of January to try to schedule and do
Right.
what we wanted to do, but that may not be enough time.
So the letter go back saying that we'll have an answer to them by 1 February?
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
That way.
Okay. All right, then I think that's all we needed to discuss tonight. Let me just see if any council member have any comments they'd like to make, starting with you, Mark.
I'd just like to thank all the guests we had here tonight. I think it was a great discussion. Appreciate you all being here.
Boyd?
Randy
Oh,
has a
okay,
comment
sorry,
to
I'm
make.
sorry,
We
Randy.
might need to make a motion to vote on it.
Yeah, the mayor pro tem's looking at me like we need to make a motion. I agree with him.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we authorize the city administrator to contact the owners of the property on Highway 67 described in our agenda to let them know that we do have serious interest in their property and would ask that they allow us 120 days to complete our research, our study, and due diligence.
Second.
Okay, so when is 120 days from now?
End of January, basically.
So can you just say 1 February? Or are you stuck on 120? I don't wanna.
A day or two, I don't think will matter.
Okay, all right, so approximately 120 days? Okay.
Starting tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow. Okay, that's 1 October. Any discussion?
How many acres are in this stuff?
Let me go ahead and take the motion first, and then we'll answer that. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimous vote, and then we'll authorize you to send that letter. Boyd, now to you for comments.
Yeah, somebody mentioned 25 or 30 acres. How many acres is it we're thinking about buying out there?
We'll have to get,
That property, on 67 there is about, that's 8-something acres. And then the adjoining, back behind the MSC was another 13 acres.
okay. So Boyd, did you have any other comment? Russ? Any comments?
I just appreciate the opportunity to have good, honest, wholesome Stephenville conversation between citizens and erase all the misconceptions and miscommunications and the Facebook experts saying stuff they don't know anything about. This is how it should be done, and this makes me very proud. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Brett?
Just appreciate everybody coming out.
Alan?
Y'all don't understand how rare it is for us to have input from citizens that's not negative or positive necessarily. It's informational, and I appreciate that. I know it takes y'all's time, and I know y'all have a lot of other things to do, but I appreciate y'all coming tonight. I appreciate you sharing with us and giving us some insight into your world, which I know very little about, obviously. Thank you very much.
Sherry?
Yeah, I also would like to thank everybody that came and was very informative tonight. Thank you.
Sherry?
Yeah, I've got 2 prime ribeyes that I got from Hard Eight down the street here close to HEB, and I'm ready to go home and cook them.
All right.
Is that an invitation?
No.
I think that means he's ready for a motion.
So what the council knows is Jerry's saying that because he wants my remarks to be short. So I'm gonna do that for you tonight, Jerry. But I want to echo what Alan and Russ have said about, I really appreciate y'all coming out tonight and helping us in this journey together. This is really important for our community. This is not just about a rodeo arena. This is about our community. And let's not lose sight that we're really talking about how to meet the needs of our citizens. And you know what my takeaway from tonight is that if the arena is not part of this complex, there needs to be another discussion about how the arena becomes a reality in this community, regardless of what happens with this, because it is an opportunity of a lifetime in this community for us to leverage who we are as the cowboy capital of the world. And if we don't take advantage of that, and I'm not saying that from anything other than to recognize, I think the words that were said here tonight, it's important. And you know, I hope this discussion will not end tonight. I hope, I know there's a board member from the Stephenville Economic Development Authority that's here tonight, and thank you, Marion, for being here. You need to sit with your colleagues and maybe ask them to ponder what was said tonight, and you know, maybe y'all can invite some of this knowledge here about what the rodeo industry means to this community that is completely untapped to this point as far as its future potential. And I think it's a very interesting conversation for us to have together. So I look forward to that. And I just want to thank everybody for their discussion tonight, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I make one more point, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think it may be the 17th or 18th commandment, thou shalt not conduct city business that will interfere with a scheduled hunting trip.
That's right.
So
That's right.
And we need to bear that in mind.
That's right. So we will do that in the spirit of a good hunt.
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, this meeting's adjourned at 7:12.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot that goes on.